So yeah, as I said, Lima like kind of kicked my ass, but the next day I was on the road heading north on my way to Cartagena, but I had 3 more cities to stay in Peru, and we're definitely in like the true desert Peru here. So getting out of Lima was like, it's a big city, but I managed to get out of it, and on the way I decided to like change a tire because I was, my tires weren't feeling good. I mean, I was driving a long distance on 2 of the tires I still have on my car. I bought in Canada before I left, so like it's ridiculous to have some of these. So I would always wear them right down. So I just stopped at this place to get them changed or rotated, and the guy working there was a Venezuelan guy, so we were talking a bit. And it's worth mentioning at this time right now, like I would have liked to have gone through Venezuela. I don't think it would have been possible with the routing, with the roads, but I would have liked to have seen Venezuela. But Venezuela is like in a total economic crisis. Like you can't even buy shampoo, and people are like leaving the country in like a mass exodus as well. So even in Lima, I was seeing like tons of Venezuelan families in the street, like asking for help. But this guy, I guess, left Venezuela, and he was working in a car shop sort of in a different spot in Peru as well. But I would see more and more Venezuelans as I was heading north. Anyway, so finally I got to Chimbote, which was the first city after Lima. And the hotel was like this weird, like, Japanese vibe inside, like 80s Japanese, like, I don't want to say sex hotel, but this weird vibe inside that was strange. And then there was like super mean dogs on the street. Like, I was like, they just like really aggressive, and there was no owners, and I was like, what the hell? Because it happens in Latin America that there's dogs in the streets, but they're not normally aggressive. But anyway, so I didn't get bitten, which was nice. Went downtown to get some food, sort of the main square area, and ran into like these 2 hippies on the street corner trying to sell their like goods or whatever, and one of them was from Argentina, so that was kind of interesting, comparing like perspectives from Argentina in a different country in Latin America and things like that. And then headed back to the hotel, and then the next day I needed to get some money out of the ATM, so I headed downtown again. And I was in the same spot, exact same spot, on this harbor, looking at the water, that I was in 2015 on my way down. So I've got a little video of that. So anyway, so then I left Chimbote and worked my way up to Chiclayo. And en route, it was like the most like gorgeous desert ever, because it was getting towards like night. So it was like this kind of like purple color to the sky. You got the ocean on one side and just this desert like sand dunes. Like, oh, so nice, man. I don't have any video of that, unfortunately, because I was kind of like business mode at this point. Like, it's time to get the car home. It's not time to do like, I don't know, like tourism or like really like get in tune with like the photos or whatever, that kind of thing. So I was like mainly focused on just getting up to Cartagena to ship the car home. Anyway, so I got to the hotel, and it was like a nice night, kind of walking around. Kind of a nice hotel. I think I have a picture from that hotel like in the morning, not obviously the night, but in the morning. So there's one there. But it was kind of a nice little night walk. I think I ate dinner at like a Mexican restaurant. Yeah, nothing major. But in the morning, like borderline disaster. So I'm leaving the city, and as I was mentioning in Peru, like there's just so many motorbikes and these little cabs, like taxis, that have a motorbike attached to like a wagon on the back. And in Peru, like different than Brazil, different than Argentina, the road in the cities really does not have rules. It's just like there's roundabouts and people are just like fighting for their place, right? So I'm leaving the city, leaving Chiclayo, gonna head up to Piura, and I'm coming around this roundabout, and I'm like, dude, like this is my spot, don't cut in on me. But this guy in this little motorbike cart thing thought he could cut in, and so we like hit each other. No like damage, because it was like we're barely moving. But of course he looks at his door, and he gets out of his little cart and starts yelling at me in my window right here. And like I said, I don't have data on my phone, so I like literally then leave a town, need to be like looking at my phone like this to make sure I'm on the right route, particularly like leaving the city. Once I'm on the highway, it's like easier. But so he came to my window, he was yelling at me. I was like, dude, I didn't do anything to your car. Take a look at your door. There's nothing wrong with it. We hit each other like nothing. It's as much your fault as it's my fault. But I had my cell phone like right here in my lap, because I didn't, like I talked with my hands. I didn't want to have my cell phone up like this, right? And he's so fast, this little guy. He like grabs my cell phone, and like fortunately I do like grab his arm, and we're just like in this like locked stance. He's got my cell phone on his arm. I'm like, you have to give me my cell phone. Like, you can't do that. And he's like, no, we're gonna meet over there, like by the side of the road, and we're gonna talk this out. And I was like, you cannot take my cell phone. And so like he gave me his like ID and his passport or something to like prove to me he was gonna take my cell phone. But I just like went over and parked my car in front of his thing, and we got out, we talked it out. And I said, like, what are you talking about, man? Like, I didn't do anything to your door. Your door's fine. He's like, no, there's a scratch on my door. I'm gonna need to get it fixed. I need 50 soles or whatever it was. So anyways, I ended up giving them the money to get my cell phone back. It was like $15 US or something like that, which is way ridiculous for them. Like, that probably was his like biggest money that he earned all day, his little taxi service. But I mean, I really had no choice. He had my cell phone, and that was like worth $15 to me for sure. And I couldn't fight him. I mean, there's people on the street watching us, and they're kind of like, what's going on? Of course, I'm the outsider, so whatever. So anyway, so got out of there and headed up to Piura. Now, up till now, sort of in Peru, I'd been over mostly sections in the desert areas that I'd stayed on the way down to Argentina. But Piura I had passed through before on my way down, but I'd never actually stayed there. So this is the beginning of sort of some like fresh routing for a little bit on the way up to Cartagena. Most of it's all the same as the route that I took down. So I get to Piura, and the hotel's like this, like kind of like not family hotel, but it's like a small one, kind of in a residential area. And the only thing that was funny about that hotel is they'd advertised they had parking, but I showed up like at the exact same minute as someone else who had a big truck. And like to get both vehicles in was like so like it took us like 20 minutes, but we did it anyway. No big deal. So then that night I went out and like went for a stroll to get some food, and ended up going through a pretty rough neighborhood, but ended up onto the main strip and headed to the mall. Had like spaghetti or something, like something basic. But by this point, with the ciproflax, my stomach was back to normal, but I just didn't want to chance it with anything too dodgy. So anyway, ate some spaghetti and then bought like a giant yogurt, like drinkable yogurt like this, lactose free, and was like gonna walk down the street to go back to my hotel. I remember drinking this thing, like just pouring it back because I knew the stuff in yogurt is good to help promote the probiotics in your stomach after taking antibiotics. And I ended up going the wrong direction on the street and had to like come back. Anyway, finally got back to the hotel, no big deal. And the next day then I had to cross the border into Ecuador. And again, I took a different route than the border I'd taken on the way down. So I crossed the border, and it wasn't complicated at all. But what was amazing was like Piura is like total desert. Chiclayo, Chimbote, total desert. Lima, total desert. But just as you start going into Ecuador there, like you're not even going that far away from the same like terrain or ocean or anything like that. And the rate at which the landscape changes from like desert to like pseudo jungle or scrubland jungle was like amazing. And then eventually like you're in like full on jungle. So yeah, the border wasn't any problem, and that wasn't yet in the full on jungle. But I kept continuing, and I remember in the jungle, like the full on jungle, I remember this one moment seeing a spider. I'm driving like 80 kilometers an hour, you gotta realize, in the jungle, like with shadows and things. And I remember seeing this spider walking across the highway, and it was so big. This spider was so big that I could see like the individual legs on it moving as I'm driving 80 kilometers an hour through like the jungle with shadows, and like it was like that thing had to be like as big as my hand, man. It was like crazy. So anyway, so no big deal, didn't touch me, no big deal. So I get to the Machala, the hotel, and this is kind of like not mountain Ecuador, it's still like sea level here. And get checked into the hotel, everything's fine. Kind of start wandering around to get some dinner, end up seeing some like statues, some monuments, that kind of thing. End up at a mall again to try to keep my stomach basic without any crazy food that like someone's making sort of not in a restaurant or something like that. And then like walk back, and then in the morning I had to try to change some money because in Ecuador, oddly enough, they use US dollars. They don't have their own currency. So I think I like was in their little square place, and it was sunny in the morning, although I think my photo might have been the night before of the square, I'm not sure. But anyway, so out of Machala, and then moving up back into the mountains on the way to Ambato. And again, the route was still fresh here for most of it, but in Riobamba, it converged with the route I'd taken on the way down. So, like I said, we're back up into the mountains here. And I think Ambato is something like 8,500 feet or 2,600 meters. It's like a valley. So I was on one side of the valley, so probably even higher than that. And then I got to the hotel, it was this tiny little thing, and again, parking was like insane. I had to get the person who owned the hotel to park the car because it was so tight, and he took like 5 minutes to do it. It was ridiculous. But anyway, not a big deal. The car was fine. It was raining when I got there, and then I went up for food, went up a little higher than the hotel, and had to like kind of work past this like little back alley beside these train tracks, and I was like, dude, is this safe? But like, the thing about Ecuador is, man, of all the Latin American countries, I feel like Ecuador is like the secret gem. Like, it's the most chill, it's the most green, and I think it's like the most relaxed of all those countries in that region. So anyways, nothing happened to me. I got some bread from the grocery store, I got some hamburgers, and then I headed back to the hotel, and everything was fine. In the morning I have a view of the valley from the hotel there, a little video of that. And then the next day I had to head to Tulcan, which is right on the border with Colombia. So on the drive I had to pass Quito, and I like could not believe how long it took to get around Quito. I was like, am I actually on the right route? Like, this is ridiculous. I've been trying to get around Quito for like an hour. You're on the outskirts of it, but it's just like you can always see it. And I was just amazed, like, how big is Quito? But it must just be like the way it's laid out. And then after Quito, I really started to recognize a lot of the route that I'd taken on the way down, because I'm driving the same route. I started to notice the landscape, like a lake with a volcano above it, things like that. That was kind of interesting. Anyway, I get to Tulcan, and it's pretty much just like a square, and the hotel's right there in the square. It was weird, like, the hotel was like super cheap, but I had like 3 beds to myself in the hotel. But Tulcan's quite high. I think it's like 2,900 meters, almost 10,000 feet. And so when I went out for food that night, I was like super, super cold. And I remember I ended up eating at like one of these like non-restaurant, like kind of like local family restaurant type places, where like it's real people food. It's not like, so I was a little worried about my stomach, but it was fine. And in there I was obviously the oddball gringo because it was like real people from that village there. And so I went back to the hotel, and then a little bit stressed out with some information about the details of shipping the car from Colombia, because that would be my next country. Colombia, I'm crossing the border the next day, and I'm shipping it from Colombia to the USA. That's the plan. So just working out some logistics from the hotel. They're a little bit stressful, but I also knew I had to cross the border the next day. So that was where I was at, right on the border of Ecuador and Colombia.